Hello, and welcome to We Are Just Two Idiots. I'm your host, Steve Michaels. You can follow us on Instagram and X at WeRJust2Idiots. And as always, you can email us at WeRJust2Idiots@gmail.com for comments and feedback. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Duke Ross. Duke, how are you doing today?
Oh, Steve, doing super. Super as usual. 60 degrees, tornado warnings here. You're making posts from Naples in front of Palm Springs. It's great. I'm happy. Thrilled.
Well, thank you for that, Duke. Yeah, it was about 92 today. So last episode, we were able to have a good laugh. Admittedly, Duke said he was not an expert in hockey, nor did he really like the sport. So we gave him a quiz.
I like the sport. What are you doing? I just like it.
He likes it. Okay. He didn't do very well in our quiz on is this person a hockey player or a Russian physicist? I gave Duke a freebie. A lot of people
would have trouble with that. A lot of people.
I think a lot of people got 5 out of 5 on that. Duke got the last one right, of course, so that was good. But in all fairness, like I said, Duke did not claim to be a hockey expert. So I thought for today, I would give Duke a chance to redeem himself because he's always telling me and the guys how incredibly smart he is about Major League Baseball from his younger years. So I thought I'd give him a
knowledgeable,
quiz.
Not incredibly smart, knowledgeable.
I thought I'd give him a quiz that was right up his alley, and let's see if he can do better. So, Duke, I'm going to give you a year, and I want you to tell me who won the World Series that year. I'm going to say, I know how old you are, so I don't want to embarrass you. I'm going to say from 1970 to 2000. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that's, somewhat in my wheelhouse for that. So
somewhat in your wheelhouse. Okay. And I'm going to keep track of your score, of course, just like we did on the last quiz. Let's see how you do here. All right. The first one is 1974. That's a very, very important year for me. 1974.
1974 would be the Oakland A's.
All right. That is correct. Great job, Duke.
Thank you.
1980.
1980 would be the Philadelphia Phillies.
Uh-huh. All right, I'm going to throw you an easy one. 1988.
1988 would be the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I think everyone should...
Why don't you stop? I'm going to do something, and if we have time, hopefully it won't take long. I don't know why I have this skill. I don't know why I retain it. But, again, I do know all the World Series champions for many, many years. I have no idea why. So I was going to say I can start at 1970. I mean, legitimately, I can start at 1968. We'll go from there. And tell me if I'm wrong. But we'll just I'll rattle, and we'll see where my insane brain is. I think if I do this, and I think I can, I am the epitome of an idiot savant. That's all I can tell you.
All right. I'm going to pull this up then if that's what you're going to do. Give me a second here because I don't know them. I know a lot of them, but I don't know them by heart. No way. All right, here we go. I have them pulled up. So you're going to go from 1970 to 2000. You think you can rattle off 30 in a row?
I mean, I think I can do more. I mean, I can go to 1968 as the Tigers. 69 was the amazing miracle Mets that crushed the Cubs.
All right, here we go. So far, so good.
Yeah, right. 1970, oh my God, I'm already having an utter brain fart with 1970.
No, keep going. You're going to have to pass.
All right, we'll go back. 71, there's bookends, 71 and 79. Oh, it's Orioles. The Orioles are in 1970.
All
the
right,
Pirates are 71.
All right.
72, 73, and 74 are the A's.
Okay.
75, 76, you have the Reds, and that's the Pete Rose Big Red Machine. 77 and 78, you have Thurman Munson's New York Yankees. Lots of back-to-backs.
Yeah.
79, to the We Are Family, Willie Stargell Pirates. 1980, you mentioned, was the Philadelphia Phillies. 81 is a strike-shortened year of the Dodgers. 82 was the Cardinals with Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, an amazing team. 83, the White Sox were actually in the playoffs that year, miraculously. They lost the Orioles, and the Orioles wound up winning the World Series. 84 is the Detroit Tigers. They started out 25-5. 85, you had a crosstown series between St. Louis and Kansas City, and the Royals won. 86, sadly for Billy Buckner, the Mets won, and the ball between his legs. 87, you
that's a Seinfeld episode.
It is
You weren't
Seinfeld.
even there. Mookie Wilson, Game 6.
Indeed.
All right, yeah, keep going.
He was, Game 6. So
Game
87,
six.
You have Kirby Puckett and the Twins. 88, you had asked me about the Dodgers. Kirk Gibson had the amazing home run. 89, you had another crosstown series, and then you had an earthquake. So you had San Francisco and the Oakland A's, and the A's wound up winning that. The A's were actually, I think, in 2 or 3 World Series in a row. That was the only one they won. 1990, you had the Reds. 1991, you had the Twins winning again. And then 92 and 93, you had the Toronto Blue Jays. Joe Carter, former Cub, walk-off Game 7 home run. 94, it trips people up all the time. 94 is the strike-shortened season. Frank Thomas won the MVP nonetheless, but no World Series, ridiculous. The Sox and Montreal Expos had 2 absolutely ridiculous, amazing teams, and you never know what would happen, but they were both on target to win way over 100 games. 95 was the only year the Atlanta Braves, who went to the World Series probably 5 times in the 90s, they won in 95.
Greg Maddux.
96, you had the Yankees. 97, somehow the back then was the Florida Marlins.
Dontrell Willis.
Yep, Dontrell. He has kids that live near me in Libertyville. You have 98, 99, and 2000. You have the Yankees. 2001, you have an amazing Arizona Diamondbacks team with Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. 02, you had the Anaheim Angels. 03, the Marlins won again. They bought a team and sold it right after, and they've been terrible ever since. And this is where I wane, but I know 04 were the Red Sox. 05 were our White Sox. 06, the Cardinals had like an 82-game season, 82-win season in 06. I think 07 are the Red Sox, and then I'm not going to lie to you. You can ask me who won from 2008 to 2026, and I could get so many wrong, I couldn't even tell you. And I don't know if that was impressive or not, but honest to God, I could not tell you. I know San Francisco won 3 World Series within a 5-year span right after that, but I couldn't tell you the years, and I could not, outside of the Cubs winning in 2016, I can't tell you a damn thing.
Well, that was really impressive because you got every single one correct. I know you had a brain fart in 1970 with Doris.
I got nervous. I was nervous.
And you were able to come
Wait,
through.
who was, do you know there was a, obviously Jim Palmer was one of the pitchers on that 1970s Orioles team, but there's a local announcer, we'll just say, that makes it a little easier, that was on that team and won the Cy Young.
I know who that is, but I can't. It's not coming off the top of my head now.
Steve Stone.
Steve Stone. Okay. Well, that was really impressive, Duke. So, so you're saying you can't tell me who won the World Series in 2019?
No idea.
2020? Okay.
The Dodgers. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lucky guess. All right.
I think it goes 2 ways. One, my life became a lot busier. I loved baseball as a kid, and I followed a lot thanks to my dad. I have a lot of knowledge of baseball from like the 1930s and 40s. I know an awful lot of Hall of Fame players. But as you get older, certain things kind of take precedence, and I opened the restaurant and got incredibly busy and didn't have the time to sit and watch and didn't have the wherewithal. And another thing happened. I think baseball changed. It wasn't as exciting, after the steroid era, after, you had the White Sox, for me, won. But I think across it was obvious. Ratings plummeted. The baseball had a huge problem post-steroid era. And it didn't really recover until the last few years. And now you see baseball with the new rules implemented, be it the pitch clock, the wider bases, not shading an extra infielder over to make it impossible to get a single. Baseball's kind of reemerged, so to speak. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And
with
I'll
that.
say this: last year, if you can, it's hard to remember last year, but the World Series with the Dodgers and Blue Jays was absolutely insane. It was
a great series.
Best entertainment I could hope for. It was amazing.
All right, so Duke, I would say you redeemed yourself from your hockey quiz.
you.
That was incredibly impressive. I'm sure the listeners are going to think that. Now, I want to shift now into our topic of the day, and that's, of course, the Chicago Cubs. Duke and I talk baseball a lot, and we've been talking up until this episode. And I told Duke, I said, here's what I believe after looking at everything. I really believe after the COVID-shortened season when Theo Epstein stepped down, Tom Ricketts found the perfect puppet in Jed Hoyer to execute his vision of how to operate the Cubs. And this was needed because there was a new landscape of Major League Baseball, okay? Player salaries just completely skyrocketed. Minimum salary for players went up by 55%. Contract values went up by over 135% for the big-name superstars. Like, I remember when Giancarlo Stanton signed, like, in 2015, he got, like, $300 million. Everyone was like, wow. Now, those contracts happen now for superstars pretty easily. And I think Ricketts, after Epstein left, Ricketts said, I don't want to get into this race with these other 5 to 10 major market teams. And he told Jed Hoyer the following, he said, I want you to field me a team that can compete for 85 to 90 wins, be in the running for a wild card spot. Then if we get in, right, we will just tell the fan base, hey, we're in the playoffs. In the playoffs anything can happen.
This is a hypothetical.
This is a hypothetical.
This is in your mind?
This is what I believe he did say to Jed Hoyer.
Okay.
He also said, of course, I got probably one of the best stadiums in all of sports. I need that team to keep Wrigley Field packed. I need it packed all the way through September while we compete for this wild card spot, as I right now and will maintain being a top 5 revenue franchise in all Major League Baseball. So I think that was the discussion that Tom had with Jed, and we're going to go through how that played out. Okay, because in the Theo era, the Cubs were a machine. They averaged 5th in payroll, 4th in revenue, 4th in attendance. They made the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. One of the most attractive draws in major leagues. And they really didn't do it by signing any major free agents, right? They signed Jason Hayward and they signed Hugh Darvish. All their money really went to retain that incredible core that they had and add to their starting pitching. But in the Jed era, okay, in the Jed era, I'm saying it starts in 2021 after the COVID year, things completely changed. The Cubs have dropped to they have averaged 9th in payroll. So they went from 5th to 9th. That's a pretty big drop. Hey, their revenue still stayed at 4. Their attendance dropped to 9th. And, you're not as winning as much. People won't come out to the park, but Tom's a pretty smart businessman. He made up that revenue in ticket prices. He launched Marquee Sports. You've seen all the areas around the ballpark with the restaurants and the hotels, you name it, sponsorships, etc. But what did that translate to? The Cubs have only made the playoffs one time in the last 5 years. And as we sit here today, the Cubs are, hey, I said that Jed's job is to get to an 85 to 90 win team. Hey, the Cubs right now are 3 games over 500 at 39 and 36. That maps out to be about an 84 win team. They're 1.5 games behind the wild card. That place is going to still stay packed. So I think Jed is doing his job. He's only signed 2 major free agents in this era, and that was Swanson in 2023 and Bregman this past year. And, God, if we have to discuss that contract, we can. He's really made no effort to get any major free agent pitching. And before I get your comments, Duke, I want to go through what I believe the Jed Hoyer strategy is.
Okay. All right, good. And I have a lot of comments.
That's good. I expect it. So I think the Jed Hoyer strategy is very simple. 1, avoid large contracts. Okay? For those that don't know, that there's, if you look at the top 50 largest contracts in Major League Baseball history, Duke, how many do you think the Cubs have out of those 50?
I would guess 2 or 3. And how far are we going back?
All time.
Listen,
Obviously, the big salaries started happening, in the 2000s.
For sure. So things are going to, dwarf, supersede. But I know when they signed Soriano I think it was 100. I don't know. I think it was like 177 million. I don't know why that number's in my head, but that was a gigantic contract back then. Obviously, Dansby Swanson was a big contract, and I would go with Jason Hayward, and those are the only ones. There is nobody else. But I will say this: I heard you say you're avoiding long-term contracts, but they did give Bregman $40 million a year. That's a lot.
We'll get to that for sure. I mean, so to answer that question, out of the 50 largest contracts in Major League Baseball, the Cubs only have one of them, and that was Jason Hayward in 2015 at $184 million. So, they've definitely avoided large contracts. The other strategy of Jed Hoyer is to sign mid-tier contracts, and I'm going to define that as anything less than $100 million. Cody Bellinger comes to mind. And then, of course, they dumped him in a salary to the Yankees. I just was watching the Yankee game today. He's got like 12 home runs and 50 RBIs already. He's batting 280. So
he's a good player.
I mean, they just dumped him for nothing. They didn't want to pay him. Seiya Suzuki, that's another sub $100 million contract. Seiya's a good player on an 85-win team. He's a top 50 to 20 corner outfielder per the WAR stat. And then, as it pertains to pitching, with incredible ability to sign some top tier starters, Jed really went down the path of Marcus Stroman, Jameson Taillon, Shota, Matthew Boyd, all pitchers that were relatively midway priced. Good pitchers, but by no means elite. Those are probably 3-starter, a 4-starter, a 5-starter. They're not 1s or 2s. And as you saw last year in the playoffs, you need to really have 1s or 2s to be successful in the playoffs. So I think that's one of Jed Hoyer's strategy is, sign the mid-tier contracts. One that we've noticed in the past few years is trade your top Baseball America prospects for players in their walk years or that are in arbitration. So we saw this last year with Kyle Tucker when they traded Cam Smith, one of the Cubs' top prospect. Tucker didn't play very good here for the Cubs, but there was no way we were going to sign him to a, Fernando Tatis, type contract or, Guerrero Jr. type contract. And then this year you saw us trade our number one prospect, Owen Cassidy, for Eduardo Cabrera, an arbitration pitcher from the Marlins, and it's been a disaster. One thing that is part of his strategy is retain your core with team-friendly contracts. You saw that with PCA this year, Horner, and of course, Happ. If he can get you on a team-friendly contract, he's going to sign you. We also see he doesn't waste a lot of money on the bullpen. He hopes to hit on a few gambles and reclamation projects. Daniel Palencia. We let Brad Kessler go this year. We didn't want to re-sign him. We didn't sign Drew Pomerantz. All the guys that made our bullpen so successful last year. So I think that has kind of been Jed's strategy. And if you look at their win-loss record and their playoff, it's kind of fallen in line what I mapped out at the beginning is his job is to build a wild card contending team and make sure that the team stays competitive enough to have the $3 million in revenue or whatever it is they need to generate. $3 million in attendance so they can maintain being a top 5 revenue team in the majors. So that was a mouthful. And I know, Duke, you're anxiously awaiting to shoot down a lot of that data.
Listen, I don't have to shoot it down. And look, I think at a certain point we'll get into what's wrong with today. What's wrong with our players today? Like, why are the Cubs not playing well? Why did they have an unprecedented 2 separate 10-game winning streaks and then shit the bed? What has happened? I'm pretty sure most Chicago fans were losing their minds when they were going through those winning streaks, thinking how great everything is. I remember text went through, what a great trade for Cabrera. This guy's a stud. Of course, injuries happened, and I'm certain everybody was effing thrilled 5 weeks ago, and then now, the bottom's dropped out. But I want to show you something. I'm holding this, and I think you're going to find this very, very interesting. So what I have 2 sheets of paper, Steve, and these are my notes, buddy, right here.
All right, yeah.
With these sheets, on one, I have 1 through 10, the 10 highest payrolls. You have the Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Phillies, Atlanta, Houston, Cubs at 8, Padres, and Tigers. In my other hand, I have the bottom 10. Now, I did manipulate this a smidge. This is 21 through 30. 20 and 21, I flipped because it helps my argument. So I flipped it. Instead of the Rockies being at 21 and they're freaking awful, Milwaukee was at 20 and I put Milwaukee at 21 instead, okay? So it changes things, but with the average of the payroll, it doesn't change that. The 10 highest payroll teams, when you add up all of their wins so far this year, you are at 383. Everybody that spent money, that's how you win, right? The bottom 10 teams, the Brewers, the Twins, the Pirates, the D-Rays, the Cardinals, the A's, Washington, the White Sox, Miami, and Cleveland. 385 wins. So the bottom 10 teams, and this is how much money they spent. Cleveland spends 79, Miami 80, or the Florida Marlins. Or no, they're the Miami Marlins. The White Sox 91, Washington 92, 94, 92. They averaged $97 million payroll per team. The top 10, $263 million. And that doesn't count the deferred money that certainly the Mets and I know the Dodgers have for Shohei, for Mookie Betts, for a plethora of other players. So their salary, their payroll is probably like $400 million, which would really bump that up. But you talk about, it's not, I don't like what Ricketts is doing. He's refusing to spend money. First of all, he's eighth. I understand they're third in revenue and they could spend more money. But look at this. The bottom 10 teams have more wins than the top 10 teams. How do you answer that?
Well, so I'm trying to look at it in terms of a window. Because if we look at it only in a 75-game window, like a 75-game.
Okay, we'll do this at the end too and see where everybody finishes.
I'm not saying he's not spending money. I'm saying what he did in the Theo era is different than what he's doing in the Jed era, and I think that's by design. So, okay.
Go ahead.
Like, let's say there's 12 major markets, including the Cubs, okay, and their payroll increased 18% from the 5-year window with Theo from 2015 to 2019. From 2021 to the present, it's increased 18%. 10 other teams have increased their payroll by more than the Cubs. Because there's this, I think, just because you spend money doesn't mean you win. Of course, there's isolated instances of that, but when you look at the other,
that's not isolated. That's a 10 teams. That's a big.
Well, when you look at the 11 major markets outside of the Cubs, right? And like I said, 9 out of those 11 have increased spending by more than the Cubs did in this 5-year window. They're making the playoffs. The only team that is comparable to the Cubs is the Giants and the Rangers. They only made the playoff once in the last 5 years. Same with the Cubs. Okay, all the other teams that are spending money and have increased their payroll spend from 2015 to 2019 window, they've made the playoffs 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, and that's what you're really expecting out of your baseball team. You want to be in the playoffs every year, and you expect to be when you're one of the top revenue generating teams, just like the Cubs are. Like, we should expect that level of commitment and that level of investment. Okay.
And it would be nice to have. It would be nice to spend a little bit more money, but if you don't have the right people in place to spend that money, the Mets have, Cohen is top 2, I think, wealthiest owners in baseball. He spends money frivolously. They are number 1 in spending or number 2 in spending, depending on where you see it. Yet they have just an atrocious roster right now. They're losing. And here's my thought on the Cubs. You talked about Theo, and you talk about Jed now. When the Cubs built that 2016 team, they had some veterans. They brought in Lester. They brought in Dexter Fowler. They had Jason Hayward, who really wasn't a very good player. He was a good defensive right fielder, but outside of that, he couldn't hit a line drive to save his life.
He was awful.
And if I'm forgetting one other, I know David Ross was catching, but those were our vets. Those were our vets. At first base, you had Rizzo. At third base, you had Bryant. At shortstop, you had Russell. You had Schwarber playing left field. You had a beautiful combination of young people that were not getting paid, and you're having vets who weren't getting paid top dollar. Lester was. Again, Lester didn't get a super long-term contract, but he got a good money contract. And this is where I feel. The difference between, I don't think Ricketts has changed at all. I think what's changed is, Jed was the assistant GM, and now he's the GM, and Theo is gone. Theo is now with Major League Baseball, and you know who's flourishing? Major League Baseball. I think that Theo has had an impact, a say-so, on the pitch clock, on the wider bases, on the shift? I do. I think he's made a big impact, and I think him leaving is a big reason why in the last 5 years the Cubs have only made one playoff. And if you don't have the right people making those decisions, and Theo, I don't think Jed had. Do you think Jed had one say-so when we traded for Rizzo? And Rizzo was a Boston minor league player that they drafted, that Theo drafted at Boston, traded him to San Diego, and then when he came to the Cubs, the first thing he did was get Rizzo. And I don't know if Theo was the GM when Bryant was drafted, but Bryant was kind of a no-brainer. But the way he built this team with the veterans and spending money wisely, Hayward, you said it was a $188 million contract. That was huge. And, outside of a pep talk during a rain delay, I don't even know if he was even worth it, to be perfectly honest with you. But the biggest difference between this is Theo. Ricketts is still here. I don't think Ricketts, won the World Series and said, all right, let's pull the ripcord. I don't want to spend money anymore. He is spending. They're spending $219 million. I get it. It's not $300 million. But, and let me ask you this. Is it going up next year because PCA just got that new contract? Nico just got that new contract. And I think Ian Happ might be done at this point, so that'll fall off the books. But the money's going to go up.
Suzuki. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with him and Suzuki for sure.
So I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate it. And trust me, I hear from our friends, from listening to sports radio, people are so effing mad. And first of all, we're not even at the halfway point. You had a great start. You've had a cruddy 5 or 6 weeks. Wait for some players to get back. It's like, you shit on your team. You don't stand behind your team. You shit on your team. And then they go on another 5 to 10 game winning streak. You're like, yay, I love my team again. It's like you got to either pick one or the other. And just stand behind them. You don't know what it's like to be a White Sox fan, and I love both teams, to lose 120 games and have the apathy to not give a shit about what's happening and not even want to turn the TV on because it's so freaking depressing, and then to be excited because the next year you only lost 110 games, and last year we lost 100 games, and we're like, holy shit, look at that, we lost 100 games, we're on our way. And you know what? The White Sox are on their way. And, they have Chris Getz as their general manager, who everybody thought was a cheap, inexpensive way to just continue to spin their wheels until Reinsdorf officially shifted over ownership to Matt Isbia because he didn't want to spend money. But what they've done is amazing. They have drafted really well, and that's a really interesting thing. In the NFL and in the NBA, you can go back and judge general managers on how they draft and look at their picks and be like, that was a bad pick. In Major League Baseball, there used to be 35, 40 rounds or more. Now they've shortened it, but nobody ever goes to a GM and questions them, like fans. Be like, oh, look at their second round pick, third round pick. You know what? Because we don't know who the hell they are. And most baseball picks, it's different. Baseball's very different than other sports. Most picks don't make it. They're in the minors, and there's only a finite amount of people that make it to the majors. But we can't even judge how Jed has done drafting outside of the fact that the Cubs have, in some publications, the 24th worst farm system, and Sub Publications the 25th worst. So that's my biggest thing. Their farm system is bad. That's how I'll judge Jed Hoyer. And let me finish this. You look at the top farm systems, and you have 1 and 2, the polar opposites. The number 1 farm system are the Brewers. The number 2 farm system are the Dodgers. One spends $303 million, and the other are the Brewers, and they spend $80 million. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And hold on, I want to make sure. No, wrong. They spent $132 million.
Yeah, I was going to say 80 is way too low.
It's $132 million. That's what they have spent. Yeah. But they do 2 things. Both organizations. They draft well and they develop.
Yeah.
You can't. Either the Cubs draft well and they don't know how to effing develop, or they don't draft well and they don't know how to develop. Either way, they're fucked, and they're going to stay at 500. And it's not a win situation every time when you spend an extra $50 or $60 million on pitching, because 50% of the pitchers, especially the hard throwing ones, go out for a year and a half with a freaking elbow. So it's very difficult to give an 8-year contract to a pitcher. And then to hitters, you can give these big contracts, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And I want to hear your thoughts on it, but there's one more thing I want to get into later on about Wrigley Field.
Well, I think so. I'm not trying to. I love the Cubs, and I'm not trying to shit on them. So I just want to be clear about that. I know McGovern thinks I am a very I'm a glass half empty type of guy. I got it. My only point on illustrating that data was, I believe that there has been a shift from when Theo was in charge compared to when Jed was in charge, and I think it is being mandated by Tom Ricketts based upon what has happened in Major League Baseball in terms of the explosion of salaries. That being said,
I don't disagree that an owner can say, you have $220 million to spend. That's a shitload of money. Make it work.
It's a shitload of money. It's not top 8 money, right? And
it is actually top 8 money. It's not top 7 money.
I got their payroll. Their payroll this year is 7. Their average payroll for the past 5 years has been 9. So it's not where it was with Theo. It's around there, but there's still a big gap, right? But their revenue hasn't changed. So it's like, and I totally agree with you. Like, Theo was a very good baseball person. Very good baseball person, right? I know you talked about what he's doing now. I'm talking about when he was like general manager, like his ability to identify talent, his ability to pick off other teams and stuff like that. You can't compare that with Jed right now because we haven't seen the results. Okay? So I think the point
there are no results. That's what you compare. There are no results.
We made the playoffs once in 5 years.
Sure.
That's awful. Okay? Compared to when we were, at the end of last decade, we were making the playoffs every year. We missed the playoff once, in 2019. So it's like, it's definitely been different. I just say, like, hey, the Cubs are 3 games over 500. I'm not surprised because when I look at that team, that's a 85 to 90 win team, if that. And last year, I think they overachieved when they won 92 games. So it was a really good. But I think us as Cub fans should not, we need to calibrate ourselves to say what type of team we have on the field and what really we should expect. That's where I was going with this.
The team that's on the field now is a 500 team, if they're lucky. Right now, PCA is losing his mind. He's probably going to be our only all-star, and he is helping them win an awful lot of games.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you talked about 2016, and maybe we just spent 2 minutes. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Everything just fell perfectly into place. And we talked about it before, Duke. The Cubs had 5 stud starting pitching. Their starting pitching payroll that year was number 4 in the league. The Cubs starting pitching payroll this year is anywhere between 10 and 15, depending on where you look at. I mean, we had 2 number 1s that year. We had a 2, and we had the rest, our bottom 2 guys were strong 3s. You said it. We had a young, productive core that had yet to be paid. Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Schwarber, Russell, etc. We had those veterans that fit perfectly with the team in Fowler and Sorbrist, right? And then, of course, we traded for like one of the best closers in the history of Major League Baseball, probably next to Mariano Rivera, Andres Chapman. So, like, it's going to be very hard to replicate that, according to what Ricketts is currently putting in place. Because to have five stud starting pitching, one, you have to either pay for it, or two, you have to develop it. And I know we're very excited about Cade Horton, but he's really hurt. I mean, that injury is very difficult to overcome, and I hope he does it. But outside of that, the starting pitching, we run out there for now the past 2-3 years. Outside of Justin Steele, we don't have a top guy that we can say, hey, you're going to be our playoff ace. I mean, we really don't. Shota's not that guy.
Cade Horton was supposed to be that guy, and he got hurt. I think to a degree to be 3 games over 500 right now when you've lost 4 of your starting pitchers, legitimately, they've lost 4 of their starting pitchers.
Yeah.
And they've lost relievers. How are people yelling, Consul, you suck. Why are you putting this guy? And he has no one else to put in. Everyone has been hurt. And you go back a month, and the hitting was everyone said the Cubs have the best hitting in baseball. Legitimately, they didn't have to say it. It was there. They were leading the league in hitting. And then the bottom dropped out. And now Ballesteros was hitting 400. They're like, he is the best rookie ever. Now I think he's hitting 230. It's not a reality, but it's so unfair to listen. I think Jed put a halfway decent team out there, better than halfway decent. Should he have continued to bet on pitchers that had been hurt prior? Maybe not. But Jed can't make these guys hit, and these guys were hitting. And for them to drop off, I don't have an explanation for it, and obviously they don't either. And
I don't think people blame Counsell for the pitching. I think it's more
decision-making.
His decision-making from a hitting perspective and his overall fire and enthusiasm. This is Chicago. We want our managers to be like Dusty Baker and Don Zimmer and Joe Manning, guys that are emotional and get psyched. I mean,
you know what though? I don't think when you're in this type of situation, how many games over 500 were they? 20 something?
You mean to start the year?
Yeah, 5-6 weeks ago they were 20.
I think they were 27-13 at their best start. They were like 14 games over 500 after that one span.
I trust your brain with that, but I think they might have been higher than that, games over 500.
Okay.
To have someone like Lou Piniella, who, when you're going through a losing streak, there's fire when you're winning and you're trying to get them going. It doesn't help the team at all when every single player on the team is struggling to scream. It doesn't help them. And we don't know what's going on in the clubhouse. We don't know what he's saying, but to be stoic, to keep your presence is really, really important when you're struggling like this. And, who knows? I don't know. Counsell was the best manager in baseball when he was with Milwaukee. He left Milwaukee, and now Milwaukee supposedly has the best manager in baseball, who was, one of the coaches on the team back then. So was it Counsell that made Milwaukee great? Is it the manager there now, or is it just their system? How great was our manager when we won the World Series? He was the greatest, right? Supposedly. He came from Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
When he left Tampa Bay, he was a genius. And you know what Tampa Bay's done every year since he left? Pretty much win. And could you tell me who the manager of the D-Rays has been the last decade? Not
Is it Rocco Baldelli? Or is he Minnesota?
I have no idea, dude. But here's the thing. Franchises, Tampa Bay, Milwaukee, the Dodgers, year after year. Okay, pull the Dodgers out. Tampa Bay and the Brewers, the Tigers, and the Tigers were really bad for a while, so they got to draft high. They drafted Skubal and whatnot.
Got to get some good starting pitching,
for sure. But you can't even emulate it. If you could, everybody else would do it. I have no idea what Tampa Bay does. I have no idea what the Brewers are doing, but they draft and they develop. And
They develop.
It is out, and they draft.
I
Their
mean,
farm system is vomiting shortstops. They had the number 3 draft prospect in the country at shortstop. He just moved up to the.
He made his debut tonight.
And now they have another shortstop that's number 1 and even better than freaking him.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I don't know what they're doing, but the Cubs should try to effing figure it out.
Yeah, we draft guys like Jordan Wicks, and he gets out there and he gets, our first round pick. He gives up like 5 runs in 2 innings or something like that. So, man, good discussion.
And hey, Steve, I want to talk about Wrigley Field. There is something to be said, and I know they've changed. There's a lot more night games than there were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, obviously. I don't recall, and you'll have to help me with this, players that have come over here, and Rizzo came over and had good years, but whether it's pitching, whether it's hitting, I don't recall anybody having career years at Wrigley. I don't recall, like, Jason Hayward was a very good hitter with Atlanta. He continued that with St. Louis, and then when he came here via free agency, he couldn't hit for shit.
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger came here from the Dodgers, and he did pretty well.
Did real well, yeah.
But he hit better with the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, he had more home runs playing in L.A., and when you play in L.A. at night, it's a black hole out there. The ball doesn't carry. So we've had, Alfonso Soriano. We haven't signed a lot of free agents, but even when we had top-notch guys coming from our farm system coming up, they just didn't succeed. And there is a theory out there that because of all the day games, because the wind blows in more than half the time at Wrigley, because in April and sadly May, you don't know this, and I'm sure you've forgotten, but even May is a cold month in Chicago now, especially when you're by the lakefront. It affects how they hit. And was this year an anomaly where for some reason when it was cold they were hitting? But I think Wrigley Field has a strong effect on the players that play here, and to get consistency. And it used to be a thing, because of the day games, 2 things happened. One, in the summertime, they got overheated, they were hot, but then they go out at night and get drunk on Rush Street. And that was another problem. I can personally listen. There was a first baseman that led Major League Baseball in the 90s in hitting that was on Rush Street an awful lot. And I won't say who it is, but everybody knows who it is.
He came up with the slump buster.
For sure. He sure did. And Wrigley Field is an interesting thing. We've had a couple of MVPs, right? Rhino won an MVP. But if you look at his stats, and it was amazing, especially back then. Rhino was probably 175 pounds and didn't lift a weight in his life. But when he was MVP, I think he had 20-something home runs and 80-something RBIs, I think. And then obviously Andre Dawson was amazing. We signed him to a free agent contract where he put a blank contract in front of the Cubs, and they said, okay, here's $500,000, which was a slap to his face, and he signed it. But he was the only MVP ever to be on a last-place team. And that's what Andre Dawson did. Besides that, people come here, and listen, I'll apologize for Sammy Sosa, Moises Alou. The steroid era doesn't count because everybody was so loaded up that if you didn't hit 40 home runs, there was something wrong with you.
Yeah, and we should type on it, but I would like to dig in, because I've heard that now for several years, that Wrigley has a tremendous impact on baseball players because they play more day games. They get more tired because it's less of a turnaround. They go out drinking in Wrigleyville or down like something like that. So I like to look at that data, because when I think about it, the Cubs really have never had like power guys in their lineup outside of juiced up Sosa and Schwarber.
We had Schwarber. We just
Schwarber, but by the time he figured it out,
they had to unload the team. Yeah, he did.
So, like we really haven't had power guys. Like Rizzo's not
we were
a power
talking about
guy.
this earlier.
Chris Bryant's not a power guy.
Is Schwarber a Hall of Famer?
I think if he gets to 500 home runs, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't like the DH exclusive stuff, but like he's at 365. I think he's gonna get there if he plays at his level for 3 more years. I would say he's a Hall of Famer. He won. He was a hero in 2016. With that hit and the 10th inning. So like, I think he is. But all right, I think this was a good discussion. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the baseball season because Oh man, we might as well. Duke and I want to do something called, we're going to just spit out like 5 topics that
We're calling it the clock.
we're going to call it the clock. We're going to try to do this in 6 minutes, and just what are the top things that are going on right now, and Duke, I'll start. You want to, NBA Finals. I know you're big on the NBA Finals. What's your mind on the NBA Finals?
I thought the NBA Finals were awesome. It was exciting. I know you had a hard time, but this is what happened. The more I watched, the more irritated I got. And the Knicks were a very easy team to like. The problem is their fans are really easy people to dislike. And I'm watching the games. I'm watching Celebrity Row. I'm watching all these jamokes, and they just wanted to be seen. You had obviously there's some guys that have been there, Spike Lee, Ben Stiller, they've been there forever. But I just found it so annoying. And ratings were the highest since the Jordan era. It was 30 million people watched Game 7 or Game 5. It's astonishing. It averaged 20 million people. So people watch, and that's what happens when you get a big market and then you get an alien on the other team, and people want to watch. But the longer it went on, the more exhausted I got by their fans and by the celebrities, and I wanted to vomit. I wanted to puke all over myself. How about you?
Listen, I hate the Spurs as a franchise. I hate Greg Popovich. I really dislike Victor Wembanyama. If you don't want to stand for our national anthem,
I like Pop.
I can't stand him.
Why don't you like him?
That's a whole different podcast. But and it's hard for me to root for the Knicks because we grew up Bulls fans. Outside of the Pistons, we hated Anthony Mason, we hated John Starks, we hated Mark Jackson, we hated Charles Smith. Like, that was very tough to root for the Knicks in that. But let's be honest, I like Jalen Brunson. He went to Stevenson High School. Yeah, he played at Mac Irvin Fire and his AAU team. So, like, I was rooting for the Knicks. I watched as much as I could of it, and we probably have to have a different podcast on the state of the NBA. I would love to do that. But to your point, the celebrity things outside of seeing Sydney Sweeney in San Antonio, I didn't like all the fights afterwards that I saw.
He was in New York too.
Knick fans beating the crap out of San Antonio fans.
I don't care about that stuff. I hate their effing arrogance. What's the next topic?
Stanley Cup.
Oh, it was good. How about you?
No. I think what makes hockey amazing is the just incredible competition it was, and man, that handshake after the end of the game where the winning team and the losing team come together. It's just an amazing thing after they've been beating the crap at each other.
I think the best part of the handshake, and it is very cool. The best part of the handshake just means the hockey's over.
Well, I'm going to get you into hockey because, all I can say is if the Blackhawks have to start becoming a playoff team, they're way too good not to. They got one of the best players in the world. So the Stanley Cup was great. You saw the ratings increase that I told you about in the last episode. Maybe that was a carryover from the Olympics because that was an amazing time. But I think hockey's only going to get more popular and better. I think so. All right, World Cup.
Yes.
World Cup. You want to go first? Have you been watching the World Cup?
I have been watching. It's hard to watch everything. I'm working and doing whatnot, but yesterday was awesome, and this is where the World Cup, shines for the entire world. It's all based on stars. Every league, and here's the problem with hockey: there just aren't stars that people know and that can resonate with. All around the world, the stars showed up. You had Mbappe, you had Messi with his hat trick, you had Holland. It was amazing. It was, hat tricks. Everyone had 2 goals. I mean, it was remarkable. And when the stars show up, people watch. And especially in the beginning, the ratings, you'll see the ratings. And I know a lot of people aren't interested in ratings. I love paying attention to ratings. The ratings for the World Cup, as it goes on, it is going to be insane. And
I agree.
If you get a finals with France or England or France, and could it be Spain or Argentina?
USA, baby.
Holy shit. Look, Is it going to be USA? No. Can USA make it potentially to the quarterfinals? They could. I think it's possible. And it would be awesome if the U.S. kept surging, especially being, playing at home. You get a lot of extra energy from that. But if you get, it's the stars. The star-driven World Cup is amazing. And I think we're going to see 50, 60 million people watching the semis and the finals.
Here's what I'll say, because I'll be honest, soccer is not one of my favorite sports.
Same.
But
it doesn't have to be your favorite sport not to think it's amazing right now.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of it, though, and just because there's really nothing on. And what I've noticed, at least when I watch this year, I don't see as many as the fake injuries and people flying down and acting like pussies, like they just got shot from the third balcony. I don't see that as much this year than I did in previous years. I don't know if you noticed that.
I mean, I can't remember which game I was watching, but I felt I saw an awful lot.
You saw a lot? Maybe it's certain countries, but like,
I mean, it's annoying, to be honest with you.
I'm a hockey guy, and when you have someone like when the Blackhawks played Boston Bruins in 2013, Pierre Bergeron played in the Stanley Cup Finals with a lacerated spleen. So like, to me, there's toughness.
Jim McMahon.
You know what I'm saying? So like, when I see these soccer players, act like they're dying, and then they get up 10 seconds later after the ref tells them to, that pisses me off.
Soccer has a new rule now where they can review flops, and just like the NBA. And I did see one. I don't know if it was the USA game. I can't remember, but the guy was towards the penalty box, and he was a solid 1.5 feet away from the defender. And he went flying and was in agony, his ankle, his knee. Holy shit, was he banging on the ground? And they called a penalty. And then they did the review, and the review said
busted him.
He wound up, and he got a yellow card.
That's good
for it. And so it will limit it, but God bless America.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Flopping in sports, that's why, we'll talk basketball later, but like in hockey, you can't flop, because if you get caught flopping, you're allowed to get your ass kicked. So,
all right, Steve, these are rapid fire.
Let's go. All right.
This is a new podcast. Well, when you have 6 minutes on the clock,
I don't know where we're at now.
All
right, what are we going to do then? Let's say, LeBron James going to Golden State.
That is the rumor at hand. It was actually just talked about today that the Lakers have the same ownership now as the Dodgers. They have an incredible amount of money, but there's only so much you can spend. And I think they're limited to offering him only like $15 or $16 million, and they would like him to stay, but LeBron is not going to, stay when they're going to give someone else a brand new contract at like $240 million. So it's just not going to happen. So his friendship with Steph, his friendship with Draymond, is it going to move the needle? Is it going to make Golden State so much better that they're going to win the championship? No. It's just going to make them more interesting. And it's a way for LeBron and Steph to get to play with each other, have some fun. And with all the championships they've won, even though one of LeBron's is a fake one because it was COVID, they deserve to have some fun together.
Yeah,
fake title.
Yeah, I mean, one, LeBron's not going anywhere unless he's chasing rings, and I don't think Golden State's an upper echelon team anymore. It would be more convenient for LeBron to go to the Knicks, go to Detroit, go to Boston, or go to Denver, or go to
Nobody
OKC.
has the money to get. Nobody has the money, and he wants to stay in LA. And Golden State is going to offer where he can take a private jet, go back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's a 45-minute flight to San Francisco. That's where he's going. You'll see. That's where he's going.
And he's not going to take a salary decrease either.
Oh,
so.
Steve, we'll start doing bets on here. I wish. Right. Whatever. We'll bet. What are the Duke and Dukes and?
The next one.
$1 we'll bet. You'll see. Next topic. What is it? Last one.
Giannis and Jaylen Brown trade rumors.
So could Milwaukee hold on to Giannis? Yes. Right now Giannis wants to go to Miami. That's where he wants to go. It's not that it's closer to Greece, but I think South Beach would be the closest to what Greece looks like with a beautiful ocean. I live there. It's lovely. But he is a family man. He loves his family. It's not like he's going to go there to party and go to clubs. I think he just, he grew up in Greece. He craves warm weather. And last time I checked, Milwaukee doesn't really offer, balmy temperatures ever. Even in July, it's cold. So in terms of Boston and Jaylen Brown, I don't believe he wants to be in Boston any longer. He said the best season, most fun he ever had was his past year when Tatum was out all year with an Achilles injury. Not nice to say about your team and your teammate.
Sure.
So I think Boston wants to, Brown is probably the most intelligent player in the NBA. He's incredibly bright, and they just might think that besides taking shots away from Tatum, he talks too much. And I think they kind of want to, if he's at his peak right now, and if they could get someone like Giannis, they're going to do it. And the only issue with the trade is with Miami, they don't have a lot to offer. So after 12, 13 years of being in Milwaukee, I know Milwaukee has to look out for themselves, but if after giving them a championship, after being there for over a decade, Milwaukee could be like, all right, listen, we'll throw you a bone and we'll send you to Miami because that's where you want to go, and we'll get a decent amount of players back, and you can try and win with Bam, which they're not going to win because they're going to have to trade everybody else. Tyler Hero, couple other players, draft picks, whatever. The best landing spot for both teams is Boston because Boston will have to trade Jaylen Brown and probably somebody else. And Milwaukee will at least have a team that is somewhat palatable versus just trash.
Yeah. When I thought about this, I think Giannis is a much better player than Jaylen Brown.
He's just older.
I agree, but he is Greek. And if I'm Milwaukee, I'm not making that type of trade because I don't think that does anything for me in terms of getting better, whether I have Giannis or whether I have Jaylen Brown. Like, I'm trying to get the trade like, Sam Presti does in OKC. I'm trying to get 5 first-round picks. I'm trying to do something to that. And
it doesn't exist out there. The trade doesn't exist for Milwaukee.
Well,
and they're trying to honor a little bit of what Giannis said. And I think besides Miami, Boston is on his radar of teams that he said he would be willing to go to. Not that he has a no-trade clause, but, dark horses, if, they just want to do it. You mentioned OKC. OKC has a shitload of draft picks that they don't even know what to do with. They have players like Chet Holmgren that they would trade
in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Giannis would never go to Portland, but Portland has an awful lot of draft picks and some players that they could trade as well, but they wouldn't do that to Giannis. So keep an eye out. It's going to be Miami or Boston, and if Milwaukee has their way, it'll be Boston.
I say he doesn't get traded. Unless it's for one of those packages.
They didn't even let him play at the end of last year. They held him out when he was healthy just so they could dump more effing games. You know how mad he is? He's gone. Trust me, he's gone.
All right. I'm interested. Well, we'll see. All right. That was rapid fire. That definitely wasn't 6 minutes. That was more like 10 minutes, Duke. You're talking
that was
too
your
long.
fault, dude.
All right. Man, Daddy Diary. What do you got for us tonight? You got anything?
Yeah, listen, I have a whole Rolodex of love of my children. Watching your children grow. My daughter just finished first grade. And when, some kids start reading in kindergarten, whatever it is, some might start at 2, who knows, little geniuses. We didn't really try to teach her, so we just let it happen naturally. And, you start first grade and you don't know how to read. And, the first 2 weeks, they start implementing. And, you've got 3-letter words, 4-letter words. You read bed, mom, frog, and it progresses. And the first month, second month, you're reading with her, and she's reading. And by the end of the school year, she's reading chapter books, by herself on the couch. And it's the craziest damn thing to watch your child grow like that. And it's the neatest thing just to see it. And, I said to her, I said, do you like to read? And she's like, oh, yeah. And
awesome.
To not know how to read basically 8 months ago to reading chapter books blows my freaking mind. And it's the coolest damn thing. And, things you'll never forget, a period of time where it's just real neat.
That's awesome to hear, man. Remember those times well. I'm glad you're experiencing them now.
Yeah, me too.
You going to say a prayer?
You got any daddy stuff?
I don't have any daddy stuff. I'm going under the knife tomorrow, so you going to say a prayer for me? Something like shalom or whatever you do? Yeah.
Mazel.
Mazel tov.
Mazel.
All right, Duke. Let's end it.
Don't
Let's
say
end
put
it
a
on
bow
that.
on it. Don't say put a bow on it.
I like putting a bow on it. That sounds very professional. What? How do you want to say it?
Listen, wrap it up, bro.
Wrap it up, bro.
Yeah, look, we'll come back. Let's reconvene on the Cubs maybe after the All-Star break. See how they're doing, and maybe we'll have a special guest for the Cubs. Who knows? We had someone so sad that they weren't part of this today.
I just saw that he was at Milwaukee today watching the game, so I don't know how we would have had him on. But yeah, we got to get a couple of the guys on as guests. I mean, our sponsors are very well willing to pay for them to fly or whatever we need to do.
Well, you'll fly them out to your studios in Naples.
I can do that. As you can see, look at the studios. I see your studios getting updated. Looks really good.
Yeah, and I wore this. I don't know if you're allowed to say wife beater. I don't think
You're not allowed to say that. No.
My tank top in honor of the South Siders, who you North Side fans like to call us trash. We're not. We just like to dress well.
I think they got destroyed again by the Yankees tonight.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. All right, we're signing off. Hope we get some good feedback on this because obviously we love baseball a lot and baseball is summer, so we're going to be monitoring it a lot. All right, have a good one, and we're out.